Hey guys, this is Element Quattro, and this video is going to be a little bit different. I have been, for as long as I can remember, a lover of video games. I've never really been great at them, but I've always loved playing them ever since I was a little kid. So I would probably consider myself a gamer. Now, the question that everyone asks after you tell people that you're a gamer is, what is your favorite game? And it seems like for most gamers that's a tough question and they have to think about it for a while. But not me. My favorite game is a little game called The Illusion of Gaia. Around the time I was about, I would say 8, maybe 9, I had a Super Nintendo. And my mom was looking around the store, and she asked the person at the store, what game would you get for a kid my age? And out of the blue, he just recommended this game, which is a very obscure game, and I'm very lucky that she asked this particular guy what to buy. When I opened it up and I played it for the first time, I didn't like it because I couldn't figure out how to leave the first town because I was 8 years old. Luckily, the game came with its own semi-walkthrough, and eventually I was out of the first town when I was playing the game. And I fell in love. The second I hit the first dungeon, I fell in love with the style of this game. Now, the gameplay style of this game is like most RPGs where you go from town to town, you talk to people, and then you go to a dungeon and you fight bad guys in the dungeon, you fight a boss. Except, the level up system in this game is very unique. You don't level up based on how much experience you get or how many enemies you destroy. You level up by clearing areas of all enemies. And it gets difficult after a while because sometimes there'll be an enemy in a weird spot that you can't find, and you really gotta hunt for the way to get to them. And when you clear the enemy, you'll get one of 3 jewels. Either the sword jewel, which will raise your strength, the heart jewel, which will raise your HP and completely heal you, and the shield jewel, which will raise your defense. Now you might think, oh, that's pretty novel, but it doesn't really seem like you base a whole game around it, and you don't. That's just the main gameplay style of the fighting. And the weird thing about this game is the fighting is kind of on the periphery. It's not really about the fighting. This game is way more about the story. And before I played this game, I didn't know a video game could have a story that was more than, go here and save the princess, or go here and defeat the aliens, or whatever. But this game, it's really all about the relationships between the characters. Now, the story of the game is that the main character, Will, his father was an explorer, and he went and he discovered the Tower of Babel from the Bible. And he goes up there, and he basically, it's not really confirmed, but he basically dies. And they get all of his belongings are sent back to his family. And he discovers something terrible about he had discovered something terrible about a comet that was coming to destroy the planet when he was there at the Tower of Babel. Now, a sort of meta twist in this game is that it takes place on Earth, but a different Earth. An Earth in this game, Earth is like a living thing. And this comet had already passed by Earth once before, and this comet was radioactive, and it basically mutated the Earth. to where land shifted, mountains grew, new oceans were formed. So it's still got a lot of the ruins from past civilizations on Earth. Like, you go to Incan temples, you go to Angkor Wat, and different places like that. But there are monsters, and Earth has kind of, like, civilization's kind of reverted back to, like, medieval style fantasy kind of thing. Like, the kind of settings where you'd have, like, Lord of the Rings, things like that, where it's like a very medieval. Now, Will, because he's now an orphan, basically, he lives with his grandparents, Bill and Lola. And life kind of is, really quiet. He goes to school, has a bunch of friends, hangs out in this little cave with his friends like a clubhouse. But one day, the princess from the nearby castle runs away. And she ends up in Will's house. And Will meets her. And she's basically, she meets him. She's a very prissy princess, and the knights from the castle come and take her away. And this instigates a whole series of events where the king contacts Will because he figures out Will is the son of the explorer, and he wants a certain ring that Will should have in his bag. And Will has to go to the castle, and eventually Will tells the king that there was no such ring. The king thinks he's lying, throws him in jail, and that's where the game starts. Will is contacted by the spirit of his father and told the only way to stop this comet is you have to power up the Tower of Babel, which is basically a defense mechanism against this thing. And you have to do that by getting these mystic statues from all over the world, basic RPG things where you have to go to these different temples and stuff. But that whole story, while really interesting, really takes a backseat to all the friends and characters and the way they grow and their relationships. And it is just a game that needs to be played. You have to play it. If I tell you any more about this story, I will be doing you a major disservice. It's not hard to find. I believe you can find it on the Super Nintendo part of the Switch, on their little online thing. Or you can, get a physical copy, which isn't that hard to find. It's actually not that rare of a game. Even though it's fairly obscure, it's really not that rare of a game. But yes, this game needs to be played. So please, if you have the chance, pick this game up, give it a playthrough. And by today's standards, the story's it's not that huge of a story, but you gotta realize, back then, games didn't have stories. Not really. Like, maybe the big epic RPGs had stories, but these games didn't have stories. I mean, this game had romance, it had high seas adventures, it had demon slaying, freeing slaves, being hunted by a bounty hunter. And it also has amazing graphics that hold up to this day, because pixel art is very much coming back in video games. And this game still looks beautiful. So, like I said, pick it up if you have a chance. This game is amazing. And I guess for now, this is Element Quattro saying, be good humans, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.